Let's talk first about this report from Washington Post that a senior White House official is now part of this investigation into ties between the Trump campaign and Russia. They don't identify who it is, but reportedly it's someone close to the president. Who might that be? Shannon said it could be about a dozen people.
Never a dull moment. Look, I mean, the one thing that would be the biggest concern, and he has to be on the list, is if it's Jared. And the reason I say that is because the son-in-law, Jared Kushner, I say that because he has been in charge of all of the foreign policy strategy and engagement with leaders for Trump. He's been, so every head of state meeting he's had, he's organized, for example, the China summit, he's made point on Israel-Palestine, on Saudi Arabia. He's critical on all these things, on Russia, Ukraine. So, I mean, it would be surprising to me if Jared wasn't aware of. The question is, did he have direct conversations with? And that doesn't mean that he was involved directly in colluding, but it may mean he knows about some of this stuff. And so, I mean, if he's going to be caught up in the investigation, doesn't mean he's guilty of anything, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. At some point, people are going to be chatting with him. And I, of course, if that comes out, that's a pretty big bombshell for Trump. Keep in mind, one other thing is that the one thing that Trump did in the press conference with President Santos from Colombia yesterday is he said there was absolutely no collusion, myself, my campaign, and then he corrected himself and he said, well, I know for certain about myself.
Right.
That, you know, sometimes you actually see the gears in his head literally kind of turning while they're happening, and you could see him saying, well, no, I was not colluding. And so, I mean, I think everyone out there, part of the reason why this story has so many legs, the centipede, as John McCain was talking about, is precisely because so far it doesn't add up. I think everyone expects, whether it's people that can't stand Trump or people that are just like paying attention to the issue, that there's something big we don't actually know yet here. And, you know, with Bob Mueller as actually on top of the DOJ investigation, we all know that at some point we're going to find out.
A bombshell for Trump in what way, though? Just because it's someone so close to him or someone that he clearly is liaising with on a daily basis? Is it very difficult to separate President Trump, whether there's intent there or not? Well,
precisely because this is a presidency that has no foreign policy experience, and he's relied so much on a small inner circle, and the family plays such a significant role, I think that's a much bigger hit than it would be if you had, you know, a strong Secretary of State that was clearly a component on an active day-to-day basis of the administration with all of their people appointed and confirmed. You don't actually have that. It's a very different environment. He lost his national security advisor, you know, sort of 1 month in. And even though he was advised, don't reach out to Flynn, he sends a message to him and says, stay strong. What's that all about, right? I mean, you know, yeah, he's loyal to the guy, but, you know, there's something, again, there seems to be some level of connection here on the Russia issue that goes beyond the questions that we have that are surely about incompetence or lack of experience with, say, the Taiwan call or with the way he's handled the Europeans, the Australians, so many of these, you know, sort of poof, makes a big story, and then we move on with it. This is not misspelling a tweet. The Russia story is much more structural, it's much more strategic, and it clearly does affect the actual administration as it exists today.
I love that you use the word strategic, because for all of these reasons, they've chosen these countries that President Trump is visiting first for specific reasons. I would argue in the case of Israel and Saudi Arabia, you can make a comparison between the relations, the cool relations, let's call it that, between Obama and these countries and Donald Trump. So he goes to a warm welcome at the offset.
Exactly. And I would say that that is not a strategic reason. It's a tactical reason, in the sense that, you know, Saudi Arabia is not a country that in 10 years' time is likely to be more relevant to the U.S. than it is now. It's becoming less relevant.
$40 billion of infrastructure spending potentially means that they could be financially way more relevant.
There are big checks that can be written to support some Trump-favorable headlines from the Saudis right now.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And the Saudi king and the deputy crown prince and the Israeli prime minister are the two American allies that are probably happiest to see the back of President Obama, happiest to see Trump come in. So again, in terms of where are the places I can go that actually move the needle for me today, Saudi and Israel makes sense. If you ask me, like, where are the places you need him to have good relations, it's obviously Asia, it's obviously Europe. Those are the key relations. And clearly Canada, Mexico. All American presidents go there first. He didn't, for perfectly understandable reasons.
He doesn't want to have a fight.
He's got some challenges with those presidents.
Well, He's all about breaking the rules and not doing what's been normal. You mentioned Israel.
Yeah.
He was supposed to go there to a warm welcome, but of course there was a revelation this week that he passed on classified information to the Russians, and it's believed that the source of that information was from Israel. How does that compromise his ability to achieve anything while he's there?
If you needed to screw an ally on intelligence, Israel was absolutely the one to do. Because there will be some intelligence people in Israel that are deeply upset about this, but this is not going to shake the personal relationship that Bibi Netanyahu has with Trump and his family. We already saw Israeli Ambassador Dermer in Washington come out very strongly and say, unfortunate, but let's be clear, our most important ally in the world is the United States. The Americans write the big checks. That's going to continue. The U.S. is their most important ally. And again, Trump likes them. So at the end of the day, this is going to be a very warm welcome for Trump. The problem with these first two visits has nothing to do with the bilateral relationship between the governments. It has to do with Trump's problems back home.
I want to take you back to where we started, actually, and make the point that Sean Spicer made in his statement in response to the New York Times article, and that was, again, the national security concerns. Where's the information coming from? Where are these leaks coming from?
Yeah. Well, I mean, clearly, Trump would have mentioned, apparently, according to former FBI Director Comey, that, some of these leakers, should be put in jail. That's not it's not the way it works, right, at the end of the day. But it's very frustrating for Trump that he doesn't have control over his own administration. We saw that Hannity came out last night and said, the deep state has to be stopped. There isn't a deep state in the U.S. We're not Turkey, we're not Egypt, we're not Pakistan. What there is a deep bureaucracy. What there is, as Marco Rubio said yesterday, America's not ruled by man, it's ruled by law. And so when you have people that are working for America, right, and they're in the FBI, they're in the CIA, they're in the DOJ, they're not working for very much money. They've made a career out of this. They're working out of principle. They're working out of values. They support rule of law. They support an independent judiciary. So when they see things from the elected president that they believe goes against that, this deep bureaucracy is going to act out, and they will constrain what Trump is able to do. This is immensely frustrating to a man who's not used to people having oversight over him. He's not used to people saying no. And that, unfortunately, to the extent that there's a fight between those two forces, this is not an immovable object. Trump's going to lose. Right? That's the issue. And so ultimately, people should not get overly concerned about President Trump being able to break American institutions. There are a lot of things that are problematic with American institutions, but vulnerability to a would-be authoritarian leader is actually not one of them.